So it's taking me a while to do a review on this drama because, for one, I wanted the whole thing to air before I did a review on it, but also because I had to try and find my words about this drama. Our Youth is a 10 episode Japanese drama that I have finally finished watching, and I have finally finished like digested it and kind of like ruminated over it. So that's why I feel kind of comfortable enough to come here and talk about this drama because sometimes when a drama is very good, I struggle to find words to explain it because it's just like an emotional feeling you get and you can't really put it into words sometimes, right? Or it's just really difficult to because I never feel like I'm doing it enough justice when I talk about it. But I have, thought about it and I think I have a good idea of what I want to say about this drama. So for those who don't know, Our Youth is a drama that stars Motojima Junsei as Minase Jin, who is a high achieving high school student that comes in contact with a delinquent student, Hirukawa Haruki, who is played by Kamimura Kenshin. And this story is basically just following how these two become intimate as their relationship kind of grows, right? So it's nothing special, it's a very simple idea. But if there's one thing about Japan, is that they do BL very, very well. I mean, to the point where at this point, I feel like I have never been disappointed in a Japanese BL production. I might not necessarily like the story that they decide to tell or adapt, but you can be damn sure they will bring it in terms of production, and that holds true here. This drama is very, very simple. It's just two boys falling in love. Um, and yet, in terms of production, in terms of how immersive, how gripping it is, it's just so well done. It has a very like mellow, dark overtone. Like the cinematography is just trying to get you to understand that while these two boys are kind of falling in love in something that should be somewhat innocent, a huge reason that they are able to get to this point or why they have kind of found each other stems from their own sense of like abandonment and loneliness. So that's what I like about this. It really sets a tone that I like, and it kind of tells you that you're going to be hurt sometimes and that's okay, right? And so at the beginning of this drama, the boys don't know each other, right? These are two high school boys that are very different. One of them is a top student, gets all A's, the student that your mom points to and be like, that's who I want you to be, why couldn't that be my own son, kind of kid, right? Minase is that character, right? He's that person that is just perfect to everybody else, and the teacher's pet kind of character, right? Not necessarily because he is a teacher's pet, but just because like teachers will like him because he is so smart and well put together, like his needs, everything, right? It's just perfect. And at the beginning, before Minase meets Hirukawa, who is this like troublemaker kid, right? His life, I would say, is pretty monotone. Like he lives alone, his mom travels all the time, and his dad is nowhere to be seen. And I also think his parents are even divorced, right? And so I feel like his view of life is very cold, and it's to the point that all he cares about is his studies. Not because I think he gives an F. Like I don't think he cares about like studying really, right? I think that it actually has something to do with the fact that studying and doing well is that one thing that has not betrayed him. Like he puts in effort into his studies and he comes out on top. And also because I think that's what his mom wants for him, that's what everyone around him expects him to do, and so he just does it. I don't think he really cares about it, right? And so that's the kind of person that Minase is at the beginning. He's kind of a cold character, does his own thing and does not like to be inconvenienced at all, right? And so when he finally comes in contact with Hirukawa, it's almost like an intrusion to his psyche. Like I feel like at the beginning he just finds himself thinking about Hirukawa and can't seem to like figure him out to an extent, I feel like. And that's kind of what gets him involved with Hirukawa, right? Because to an extent, like everybody has written Hirukawa as a lost cause. Like Hirukawa is that person that everybody just ignores because they just think he's gonna turn out bad, right? He's already delinquent. He's already somebody that, I mean, he's this close to like suspension or expulsion, right? He's that kind of character, right? And so they are very, very different people. But yet when he meets Hirukawa, he's just a sudden, I don't know, that scene where like they are by the fountain and they are getting water and everything is just very gripping to me, because like that's the first time I see Minase have any expression that's like shock or something. Like generally he does not have any expression, right? He just like is going around like a zombie. And so Hirukawa is able to bring that out of him very quickly. And so yeah, that is kind of how our story starts. Now, just to talk about Hirukawa a little bit, because I feel like Hirukawa is one of the sadder characters I've ever watched. Not really because of the abuse he suffers, which is funny, right? Like you would think that's why I think he's like pitiful, but yes, that's part of it. But I think that it's just because I feel like there's no one really there for him, right? Like his father obviously is the trash person, but also like his teachers don't care. They've written him off as being just someone that will not amount to anything. And also his mom. Ugh, oh my god, his mom. I swear I hate her the most, because even though the story tries to like say she doesn't know about the abuse and everything, to me I feel like there's some willful ignorance going on. Like she's choosing not to know, right? She's choosing not to ask questions, right? And I feel like that shows that she doesn't really care about him, right? So there's this scene where she tells Hirukawa to visit her, right? And I remember the scene struck me because when she was extending that invite for the visit, she prefaces it by saying that her husband will not be around. That is her new husband, right? Which to me implies that she sees him as something that needs to be hidden, right? She sees him as something that is not part of her. It's like she prioritizes her new husband over her own existing child, right? And that to me just does not sit right. And also to the fact that she never asks questions, right? There's a scene where they're at the beach and, you know, she's talking about all the like wounds on his face. And she's just like, don't get into fights. And you almost even see Minase's reaction, how like stunned he is that she's not able to like figure this out, right? I mean, he doesn't say anything and he sees himself as kind of like an outsider. But you can still see that to him he's kind of just taken aback by the fact that she said that, right? And that scene was just so jarring to me, especially because Irukawa kind of looks at him and like almost speaks to him with his eyes that like, don't say anything, just like be quiet and everything. And you know, Yuka like smiles at his mom and everything, and it's okay again. But like to me, that was just like a moment where I was like, I really, really, really dislike his mom, right? Because to an extent she comes off as a hypocrite, you know, which I find somewhat to be worse than the dad. I don't know how to explain it, but like somehow, you know, apathy is a worse sin to me than, you know, someone that beats, like, is that is a drunkard, is that can't amount to anything anyways, right? We all know that. But his mom pretends to be somebody that, you know, is better, or like, I hope you guys understand what I'm saying. And so yeah, I don't know, that's the thing that makes Irukawa very, very sad to me, right? And I think it is actually when Minase becomes privy to how sad Irukawa's life is that he begins to care about him and let him in, literally. Like, he feels so bad for him that he lets him sleep over sometimes, right? And I also think to an extent he sees a bit of himself and his like loneliness and everything in Irukawa, right? And I think that's why he's so kind of drawn to him and he pays attention to him. One thing I will say is that I find Hirukawa to be a very good boy. And I think, again, that's partly why I feel so sad for him. He has gone through a lot. He goes through a lot. And he has still turned out really, really good. He has still turned out to be a sort of pure spirit, if that makes sense, right? He has a very high emotional intelligence. And, you know, I really like that about him. And even though he's a bit forward when it comes to his feelings for Minase, right? Because honestly, I feel like Hirukawa fell for Minase very quickly. Like, it was very quickly, and I kind of like how it's portrayed, right? Because to an extent, that like feeling that Hirukawa has for Minase is very reminiscent to me of how Hira views Kyoyi in My Beautiful Man, in the sense that like he sees Minase as this like figure that's greater than him, you know, someone that's not on his level, someone that's on a higher level, you know, someone that he needs to be like careful with, someone that needs to use kid gloves with, someone that needs to like worship, kind of like character. That's how he kind of acts around Minase, which I mean also comes from the fact that he feels that he's like, he will not amount to anything, right? Whereas Minase has a bright future, right? But yeah, I like how Hirukawa becomes obsessed with Minase very quickly, and he will act pitiful and grovel to get Minase's attention. It's just beautiful. Like there's something about it that just like speaks to me, right? And honestly, even if that doesn't work, if like groveling doesn't work, he will just go in with kisses. Like, although I mean, I do partly think he can't control himself. He just likes Minase so much. And for him, Minase is just irresistible. He's gorgeous, and like Hirukawa always says, he smells so nice. Like that's something that he mentions so often, that he just likes how Minase smells. I mean, Minase is like, I don't know what you're talking about, right? But Iruka is the one that knows what he feels, and how Minase makes him feel, right? Although I will say that to an extent, I think he also did not understand what he was feeling at the beginning, because like why would he want to like do all these things with a boy, right? I mean, he even says that like it definitely can't be because he likes him, because he's a boy. Like why would he like a boy? But I think that just at some point goes out the window and he's just like really into him. I just wants to be near him, and any little thing, like Minase says he wants to meet, or like you left something on my face, like Irukawa is running there immediately, right? Like he's like a walking like a dog kind of like character, right? Which is very like addictive, which is why I also feel that like Minase can't resist him, right? Like he cannot resist the stray dog. Right, and so they basically just like fall deeper and deeper in love until it's to the point where Minase, I would say, is the one that like can't get himself out of it. Like I would say Minase is the one that becomes more invested, right? Because I mean, even though they've fallen in love and everything, there are still troubles around, and that ends up tearing them apart, right? And again, Minase fell so deep that I think he was the one that was hurt more by their separation, right? I feel like to an extent Hirukawa could let go of Minase for his own sake, or what he felt like was his own sake, whereas I feel like Minase really needed Hirukawa in his life at some point down that line. And so he was really, really hurt. And so that's, I feel like, why when they meet later in college, like I feel like more emotional. Like I feel like Minase cries a lot more. And he's just more pushy with his feelings for Hirukawa, to the point where I feel like Hirukawa is surprised by this new, like the new clingy Minase, right? But that's just because I think Minase, genuinely came to like love Hirukawa, and so I'm just glad that they met in college again and they found each other again, and it's just so beautiful because they have something there, and it's just perfect. It's theirs and it's perfect, right? One thing I will say about this show, and this is just to wrap up, is that it is very grounded in reality, in that when we see them face the real world, we come to realize that like their relationship to them is big, right? It's something that's defined their whole life to an extent, right? But at the end of the day, it really does not matter to anybody but themselves, right? So even though their experience is uniquely something only they shared, Minase comes to realize that people around them do not acknowledge their unique experience with one another, right? He comes to realize that like all these things that are special to me, the world will not acknowledge it as being that, right? And I feel like that's another like loneliness that they have to deal with, but with one another, right? They have each other to deal with that, but it's still a certain loneliness that they've, I think, been experiencing already growing up, which is very sad, right? One thing I would say is that I really hated Minase's friends. Like I hated that he stayed friends with them. Especially that one guy that was always kind of overreaching, right? He's always the one to mention how like Hirukawa is trash, Hirukawa is a delinquent, and how dare he be in the same university as them, how dare he be in the same class as them, he's not gonna amount to anything. And he's just the worst kind of person, because I don't get where that hate comes from, right? But I just hate the fact that Minase stayed friends with them. I think to an extent Minase is the kind of person that he goes with the flow, and so that's why nothing really changed after Hirukawa left him, right? And so he just like remained friends with them, right? And I would say I don't fault him ever for not standing up to them, because to an extent I feel like the way his friends are just, they are not people you can speak to and they will understand, which is why again I felt that like he just should not have remained friends with them, especially that one guy, right? Hirukawa tries to kind of mention the fact that they are kind of a thing at the end, right? And it doesn't go well because obviously that guy is such a terrible person. Minase's friends are just so terrible, right? And honestly, they will not be my first point if I was gonna come out. Those two are just not the ones I would decide to trust with that secret, right? And so I think that even though the show ended the way it did, which was kind of bittersweet, I do think that I would like to believe that Hirukawa and Minase will find more accepting friends that love them, because I think that's what they deserve, honestly. I think Hirukawa will have to find those friends for them, because I just feel like Minase is not the kind of person to like open up easily. But I think Hirukawa has it in him, because the way Hirukawa sees the world is very different, and he's more open, and I feel like he draws genuine people to him. Even when you look at his like college group friends, right? They are more nicer people than I would say Minase's friends. So I feel like just by virtue of the kind of work he's going to be doing in film and everything, he's going to end up meeting more people that are more like altruistic, more people that are, more accepting. And I feel like that is something that is going to help them and help them grow and help them, be themselves. At least I feel like they will hopefully want to find people that they can be themselves around, right? And so yeah, I think that this has been a good story. I think this has been a gripping, beautiful story about young love between two boys. Very innocent, yet it comes with a lot of like baggage that these two boys are going through, right? And so I think that this has actually been a very, very good drama. I enjoyed it thoroughly. It's very difficult because Japanese dramas only come out once a week, as opposed to like Korean drama or other dramas from other countries, right? So that's one thing that it took me a while to get to this review, because I just wanted to finish the whole thing, and I'm glad I did. It was really, really well done. And honestly, the two actors were fantastic, phenomenal actors. It's just something, they just bring it. I don't know, something about Japanese actors that they just bring it to whatever they are doing. And that was the case here too. And so yeah, I really, really enjoyed this drama. I think I will give it like a 10 out of 10, or maybe 9 out of 10, because I wish I had seen more moments of them at the end. Even though they give us a lot, I just feel like I wanted more, and honestly, I feel like their like romantic scenes, their intimate scenes were so well done. Hirukawa was always hungry. That guy is always like ready. I mean, that's is ready to give him whatever he wants, right? And so yeah, I find them so irresistible. And they knocked this out of the park. But yeah, that's really all I have for this episode. If you've not watched this drama, you should check it out. It's very, very good. And yeah, thank you guys so much for listening. I'll see you guys again next week. Have a lovely one. Bye.